Welcome back, Crackle Addicts. I'm Lupinefiasco. This is Daily Fab Gameplay, and I won an RTN. I'm going to show you the Aurora Shooting Star deck that I used to do it with. I am going to walk you through the card choices in the deck and give you an overview on the strategy behind playing the deck. Now, none of this is game-breaking. Aurora, for the most part, is solved at this point, I truly believe. Things might get shaken up when her Armory deck drops in late March, but for the most part, we're all playing the same Lightning Ninja deck that we've been playing since Rosetta's release. But if you're familiar with Pudding Tam's list that he was winning with at the end of the Rosetta season, then you will be familiar with what I'm playing here. But if your most recent exposure to Aurora was Mercy Bickle's second place performance in Osaka back in November, then maybe there will be some new tech for you to try. I love this deck. It performs very well. I took it to a first place finish in a 56% RTN, and I'm going to show it to you. This is available for you to play on Talishar. There is a Favorite link in the video description below. But if you maybe need some help sideboarding, maybe want to get that win rate up, and even have the opportunity to ask me questions about the deck, you can subscribe to my Patreon. Patrons at the Arc Lightning tier or higher will get access to all of my matchup guides, including this Aurora list, forever. You don't have to stay a patron. You get the Favorite link, and you can refer to the matchup guides as often as you want. They are updated as I update the list. So if you like what you see here, you want to try it for yourself, and maybe just need a little help with how I am approaching certain matchups, give that Patreon link a click. Otherwise, I have a free to enter Discord while I will answer questions. I have a Blue Sky where I post about various fab related things. Give those a check as well. But you aren't here to hear me talk about my RTN. You're here for me to tell you what I won it with and walk you through the idea behind it. So let's jump on over to Favorite. This is the free-to-play Aurora list that you'll see once you head on over to Favorite. This is 80 cards. This is the stock 60 and equipment that I run in every matchup, but of course, depending on the hero, that all changes. Now, like I said, most of this is stock standard. We've all been playing the same Lightning Ninja list for some time now. Starting with the equipment, we have our Crown of Providence, Dyadic Carapace, Grasp of the Arknight, Snapdragon Scalers, and of course, Starfall. All stock standard. What this gives us is Ninja with a Fridge. Crown of Providence blocks for 2 and lets us dodge any sort of arsenal disruption. For the most part, that is coming from Assassin, be it Leave No Witnesses or Command and Conquer. But we can also run into some other heroes that are playing arsenal disruption. Syndra, notably, is playing 3 copies of Breaking Point. So getting to dodge the effect of the CNC, Breaking Point, Leave No Witnesses, we take a little damage, but if we had a 5-card hand, we get to maintain a 5-card hand. We don't have to worry about completely blocking the damage. We get to just tuck our card back into deck and draw a new one. Very helpful. Just generically useful. You might use this against a hero that isn't doing anything to your arsenal. You just don't want the card in your arsenal, or you don't want a card in your hand. Crown of Providence can bail you out of a bad spot. Dyadic Carapace blocks for 3 over the course of 2 turns. It blocks for 2 on its first block and 1 on its second. It provides Arcane Barrier 2, which is generally not relevant. You may catch an opposing Aurora attempting to play Sigil of Suffering, and you can use your 2 floating resources after pitching a blue to attack with Starfall to AB2 that 1 point of arcane damage. This is good tech against Kano, but for the most part, the only relevant text on Dyadic Carapace is that 2 down in the bottom right corner. Mostly the same can be said of Grasp of the Arknight. The most relevant part of this card is that it blocks for 2 and has Battle Worn. You will use the effect more often than not. If you have 2 resources, generally you are pitching into your hero, but on an Arc Lightning turn, especially a Flicker Wisp Arc Lightning turn, pitching to Grasp of the Arknight does deal 1 or 2 points of arcane damage because Grasp has Go Again. That rune chant can turn on your second strikes. It can push lethal damage against heroes without any arcane barrier. And if you already have Go Again, maybe you created an embodiment on your last turn, or you're playing a Lightning Surge from Arsenal, or you played Arc Lightning, Grasp is just a nice way to turn 2 resources into 1 point of damage with potential extra benefits from Second Strike, Channel Lightning Valley. Snapdragon Scalers does not have block value in that it differs from Lightning Greaves, but it is free to use. It can bail you out of a bad spot, namely that you have 4 cards in your hand and none of them are attacks with Go Again. It is a great way to convert those bad hands into damage because you can lead with a lightning attack, use your Snapdragon Scalers to give it Go Again, then pitch another one of your attacks without Go Again into Starfall, which now has 2 power and Go Again because you played a lightning card. Snapdragons is a good way to block T-Bone. It fixes bad hands. It is just stock standard for ninjas, and Aurora as a lightning ninja gets really great use out of snappies. Finally, we have Starfall. I think by this point we've all moved off of Reaping Blade as Count Your Blessings tech. Aurora just has really great tools to punish Count Your Blessings decks without needing to run Reaping Blade. The Go Again on Starfall is insanely useful compared to Reaping Blade that does not have Go Again. I can't imagine playing Aurora without Starfall as at least the primary weapon, and I would be very impressed if LSS prints a secondary weapon that makes me ever consider using it over Starfall. Love Starfall to death. It is a fantastic weapon. We'll scroll down. Here you can see all of the reds in our deck. We are not Syndra, but we are built very similar to her as far as red count. And again, we're not breaking the mold here. These are all stock standard. Probably the most exciting, spicy card in this red suite is Scar for a Scar. This is pulled directly from Pudding Tam. What Scar for a Scar does is let us use life as even more of a resource than an aggro deck normally would. We can pretty easily manipulate our life total in aggro matchups by blocking or not blocking in order to turn Scar for a Scar online. Once Scar is attacking for 4 with Go Again, it does a few really important things. For one, it's 4 with Go Again, which is above rate, a really good attack, and especially for Aurora, whose whole thing is 4 power attacks with breakpoints. That's just what we want to be doing. But what Scar for a Scar does is it triggers all of our other cards that want us to deal damage. So we have Burn Up Shock that says when you deal damage to an opposing hero, they take 4 arcane damage. So Scar for a Scar is a way to deal that damage. More notably than that, it turns on Second Strike, which wants us to have dealt damage when we attack with Second Strike. So if you are under your opponent on life total, you attack for with Scar for a Scar, 4 Go Again, they block for 3, the Scar hits, now your Second Strike is online. And because your Second Strike, a lightning attack, has Go Again, you are turning on your whole other suite of Aurora cards. You're turning on your Starfall. You're turning on your Static Shock. You are enabling yourself to play Electromagnetic Somersault on the Second Strike to send 4 with Go Again, and depending on how close you are in life total to your opponent, when you attack with Scar for a Scar, by the time you somersault it and play it again, it might not have Go Again, and that might impact your turn. Scar for a Scar is a great way for us to use Electrostatic Discharge, or for us to use Lightning Press in a hand that has a blue to pitch to Starfall, but otherwise doesn't have a lightning card with Go Again. Scar just does a lot to make our deck function, the bare minimum of which being the first half of a 2-card 8. Similar, we have Ravenous Rabble, fits the exact same category as Scar for a Scar. It is a way to push damage to turn on your Second Strike. It is a 4-power breakpoint most of the time to trigger your burn up, and it is a way for you to use your Electrostatic Discharge and especially your Lightning Press to turn on your Starfall. Speaking of Electrostatic Discharge, this is easily one of the best cards in our deck. Lightning Press is a lot sexier, is a lot more familiar to people. It's a combat trick. It pushes on hits over the top of blocks in a way that your opponents don't expect. Lightning Press is a fantastic card, but what Electrostatic Discharge does is turn on Starfall. So when you can pitch a card without Go Again to attack with Starfall for 1, you get to play a fun guessing game with your opponent, where they need to decide if you're going to play Electrostatic Discharge to get your Starfall 1 point of power and Go Again, or if you're going to play Channel Lightning Valley, which we will cover in just a minute when we talk about the yellows. Electrostatic Discharge also has fantastic combo potential with Gone in a Flash. And I've talked about the Gone in a Flash Electrostatic Discharge combo in a separate video. It is a 2-card 11 when you have Go Again, because you can play Gone in a Flash, deal damage, after damage play Electrostatic Discharge, return Gone in a Flash to your hand, then play Gone in a Flash again for 7 points of damage. And you don't need just those 2 cards to pull this off. You can play Gone in a Flash with Go Again, play Electrostatic Discharge to return it to your hand, pitch the Gone in a Flash to attack with Starfall for 2 Go Again, then play something like a Snatch, or play something like Static Shock, or even just any of our 4-power attacks in the deck. Static Shock is a fantastic card when paired with Electrostatic Discharge or Lightning Press, as they are both 2-card 8s. It is fantastic when played with Lightning Surge to be part of a 2-card 9. We have Organic Shockwave that fills much of the same role as Static Shock, as being a 2-card 8 when paired with Lightning Press. Unfortunately, it's a 2-card 7 when paired with Electrostatic Discharge, because we can't play the Shockwave, fuse it with Discharge, then play the Discharge to affect the Organic Shockwave. But if you don't have an arsenal, Organic Shockwave is a 1-card 5, because you fuse it with Discharge and then you arsenal Discharge. Similarly, we have Entwine Lightning. This is a 2-card 7 when paired with Electrostatic Discharge, or, more likely, it is a 4 with Go Again. You fuse it with Electrostatic Discharge, then you play the Discharge and follow up with another 4-power attack, creating a 3-card 11. And if that's pushing a Snatch or a Static Shock, you're getting even more value, because the Snatch draws you a card and the Static Shock is dealing damage. We have Flittering Charge, which pairs very well with Electrostatic Discharge, played after damage. Lightning Press played as a reaction. Flittering Charge pairs very well with Electromagnetic Somersault, being part of a 2-card 8. It pairs very well with Shock. You're very likely not using Shock for the purpose of giving Flittering Charge Go Again, but it is at least an option, and Aurora is nothing if not flexible. I've talked about Burn Up Shock a lot. This is one of the best cards in our deck. Most of our cards deal 4 points of damage. They are 0 for 4s, where Burn Up Shock is a 0 for 5. The Shock half deals 1, the Burn Up deals 4 when it hits. But what Burn Up Shock also does is pair very well with Channel Lightning Valley as a way to draw a card that then fuels more Burn Up threats. It is also a way to get additional value out of your Arc Lightnings if your turn sequences in such a way that you can use the Go Again from Arc Lightning on Burn Up Shock. We're going to talk about Arc Lightning in just a bit while we talk about Channel Lightning Valley in the yellow section of this video. But as you play more with Burn Up Shock, you will learn more ways in which the card is fantastic. Turns on your Starfall, turns on your Second Strikes. The 1 arcane damage from Shock is such an excellent way to get your burn-ups through that this is definitely one of your strongest cards. I cannot stress enough how strong Electromagnetic Somersault is. Just as a teaser to sort of the overview of what this deck is trying to do, we are trying to outmath our opponents. We want to get the most value per hand that we possibly can. Electromagnetic Somersault on offense is usually only going to be worth 4 points of damage. We're talking about playing Flittering Charge, playing Magnetic Somersault, targeting it, returning it to hand, and playing it again. Somersault was a 4-power attack. Same with Entwine Lightning. Static Shock starts to go above rate when, if we can play our Static Shock, give it Go Again, then Somersault it back to hand and play it again, we're threatening a 2-card 10. Lightning Surge played from Arsenal is a 1-card 4. We Somersault the Lightning Surge, put it back into Arsenal. Now the Somersault is still 4 points of damage, but we have a lightning starter on our next turn. If you can give Arcanic Shockwave go again, that's a 2-card 9. You play the Shockwave, fuse it with Somersault, play the Somersault, then play Shockwave again. But where the numbers on Somersault really go insane is when you play it on defense. If you notice, looking at cards like Arcanic Shockwave, Enlightened Strike, Gone in a Flash, Static Shock, and even Current Funnel down in our blues, we play a lot of 3-blocks, specifically 3-block attacks. An Electromagnetic Somersault lets you return up to 2 attack action cards with cost 0 or more on the active chain link. So if you block with 2 3-blocks on your opponent's turn on the same chain link, you can play Somersault to get those cards back to hand. Now Somersault is blocking for 6, and when we can 1-card 6 our opponents, that is a fantastic rate. Look for your opportunities to push damage with Somersault through something like a Burn Up or Channel Lightning Valley, but don't just tunnel vision on those offensive lines. You want to really pay attention to those defensive lines. When you can get 5 points of value by blocking something like a Mauling Chi, or 6 points of value by blocking Command and Conquer, Somersault is one of, if not the best cards that Aurora has available to her. Talked about Enlightened Strike very briefly. This card is broken in any deck that can easily give it go again. That is because the first mode, draw a card, just lets you replace what you needed to bottom to Enlightened Strike, and if you are giving it go again, or being able to arsenal that card that you drew, E-Strike is a 1-card 5, which goes way above rate any of the other attacks in our deck. The best way to use Enlightened Strike is with Embodiment of Lightning or with Arc Lightning, both of which give it go again. You can, of course, use Snapdragon Scalers. The thing to watch out for when you lead with an Enlightened Strike off of your Snapdragon Scalers or Embodiment of Lightning is that E-Strike is not a lightning card. So if you want to start your turn with E-Strike with the intention of then attacking with Starfall and having a finisher after that, you need some way to play a lightning card, and this is where Electrostatic Discharge, Lightning Press, and even Electromagnetic Somersault can come in clutch. Talked about Entwined Lightning very briefly. This is a 1-card 4. It has go again much of the time. If you can fuse it with Flittering Charge, Gone in a Flash, Lightning Surge, that is part of a 2-card 8. These are the above average turn cycles that we play Aurora for. I've talked about Snatch. This is a 1-card 4, but if it's hitting, it's more like a 1-card 7 because you draw a card and a random card off the top of your deck has an assigned value of 3. In Aurora, because so many of our attacks are 4-power attacks, Snatch can, for the most part, be a 1-card 8, which, again, we're hitting those massive value peaks. Finally, I want to talk about Sigil of Suffering. If we're talking about insane value plays, Sigil is a 1-card 5 if your opponent does not have a way to prevent the arcane damage. You play Sigil, you deal 1 point of damage, then you block for 4. So just on its own, 1-card 5. But when you pair it with Channel Lightning Valley, it goes insane, because Channel Lightning Valley says that you draw a card the first time your opponent takes damage in the turn. It doesn't specify your turn, it just specifies the turn. So if you can play Sigil and hit while you have Channel Lightning Valley out, you will draw a card. The Sigil replaces itself. Now we are victor. We're playing Test of Strength. Except the Test of Strength has an average value of 7, where Sigil has an average value of 8. That's why Sigil is in the main deck. We've talked about the reds. I have teased enough about Arc Lightning and Channel Lightning Valley. Let's talk about the yellows. Arc Lightning is just an enabler. It glues hands together. A lot of the attacks in our deck don't natively have go again, especially not when played from hand. Looking at Lightning Surge, Static Shock, Snatch. These are really good cards that accomplish very important goals, but when you draw a hand of them, you can have trouble actually converting that hand to reasonable damage, and that's where Arc Lightning comes in clutch. giving the next action we play go again, also dealing arcane damage anytime we go again this turn. That's an important clause. This is the first time we've seen such an effect in Flesh and Blood. Anytime we go again includes Grasp of the Arknight, Starfall, giving Aurora's embodiment of lightning to an attack further down the line. But it also applies to Static Shock, Lightning Surge, Second Strike, Lightning Surge played from Arsenal, Ravenous Rabble. There are so many ways to get Arc Lightning to at least 4 points of damage, giving it that 1 card 4 sort of tribal thing that Aurora is looking for, but sometimes you can even go to 5 or 6 points of damage off of an Arc Lightning, and that doesn't even include the turn that it enabled by giving your next action go again. That could be something like a Snatch, it could be something like an E-Strike, or when we get down into our inventory, it could be something really nasty like an Exude Confidence. So Arc Lightning is the glue that holds our deck together. It pairs very well with Channel Lightning Valley, which, if we were talking the best card in the deck, you cannot compare with Channel Lightning Valley. The fact that Channel Lightning replaces itself the first time you deal damage in a turn is great, because it is a lightning instant. It turns on Static Shock, it turns on Starfall. We can fuse it with Entwine Lightning, we can fuse it with Arcanic Shockwave. The fact that Channel Lightning Valley is a lightning instant lightning card that doesn't use our action point is great. The fact that it replaces itself is even better. But when you can keep Channel Lightning Valley around for a second turn, that's when it goes nuts. Channel Lightning Valley draws you an extra card, it's above rate. If it draws you 2 extra cards because you played Sigil of Suffering on your opponent's turn and got the effect, it drew you 3 cards, it's nuts. The value accumulation from Channel Lightning Valley goes insane. We all know how good Syndra is when she's triggering Mask of Momentum, but she has to hit 3 times in a row to get that effect. Channel Lightning Valley says we only need to hit once, but it doesn't need to be physical damage, it can be arcane. So Arc Lightning, Burn Up Shock, Arcanic Shockwave, all of these effects trigger your Channel Lightning Valley. The Rune Chant that you get from your Grasp of the Arknight triggers Channel Lightning Valley. The card is nuts. You are playing towards keeping Channel Lightning out for at least 1 turn. This is the whole crux of our deck. It all revolves around Channel Lightning Valley. If we're talking about maximizing value per hand, CLV is what will get you that value. Finally, we have blues that help us pay for certain turns, but like Syndra, we're a red line deck. We don't need the blues for our deck to function, but they are nice when we have them. Current Funnel is the gold standard for blues. It is a 3-block, it says lightning on it, and in certain situations it can even enable very strong turns by giving the next action card you play this turn go again. So a line with Current Funnel might be you play Flittering Charge, you lightning press it, then you play Current Funnel. Current Funnel has go again, and it gives your next attack go again. For the most part, you aren't playing Current Funnel, you're pitching it, because Current Funnel says deal 2 damage, give the next thing go again. But you know what else does that, is pitching Current Funnel to Starfall, then using your 2 floating resources to activate Aurora for an embodiment of lightning. If you're playing Current Funnel, it is usually because it is the second blue in your hand, and you already pitched the first one. You just needed to push a little extra damage, either through the 2 power on Current Funnel, or Arc Lightning, or you played Burn Up in the turn, and need to threaten more hits. For the most part, Current Funnel is just Titanium Bauble that says lightning on it, which is more than good enough for us. Second, we have Warmonger's Diplomacy. This deck tech is releasing after the Living Legend Ascension of Viserai, so Warmonger's Diplomacy does go down quite a bit in value, but there are still reasons to play it. Most specifically, we have Azalea, which is rising up as a strong counterpick to Syndra, but there are also some fringe heroes that Warmongers can hit. Something like an Acilio relies strongly on having attacks and non-attack actions to pull off big combo turns. Warmongers is a way to interrupt that combo. For the most part, Warmongers is Titanium Bauble. It's a blue 3-block, and that's why we play it. but it does have some fringe utility as well, and we really just don't want to get caught with our pants out by Azalea. So that is the 60. That is the 5 pieces of equipment that you'll play in most matchups. Let's talk about the inventory. We've got Exude Confidence. This was popularized by Ellie Bird's Aurora list that Mercy Bickle took to second place in Osaka. The card had seen some play before then, but really Mercy's performance is what turned me on to Exude, and the card is fantastic. It is situational. You aren't bringing it into every matchup. There are plenty of heroes that either don't play defense reactions or don't play enough of them that you're really expecting to get value out of Exude, and Exude does take some setting up. It isn't a lightning card, so it does not give your Starfall go again. It does not turn on your Static Shock. It doesn't fuse with Entwine Lightning, but if you can give this go again with Embodiment of Lightning, Snapdragon Scalers, or most importantly, Arc Lightning, you have a really, really powerful turn cooking against defensive decks that might have defense reactions in hand or arsenal and can no longer play them. So where Exude was really popular is for Zen. If you play Arc Lightning, then play Exude Confidence, Zen does not have the option to block with Traverse the Universe, get a Chi, and pitch it to 12-Petal Kasaya, because you are already to the point where Exude's effect is active, and Kasaya is an instant. But where Exude really shines is against any defensive deck. Enigma, Assassin, Guardian, all of these play 6 to 9 defense reactions, but don't always have the attacks that can block Exude Confidence. So if you play Exude and all your opponent has are levels of Enlightenment and maybe some dumpy Assassin 1-power attacks, they can't play defense reactions for the entire combat chain. And if you're also pairing Exude with something like Burn Up Shock, that could be very, very relevant. If nothing else, it might strand them with 1 or 2 defense reactions that they were hoping to play on their turn that they couldn't play, and now they take an intellect penalty. Exude pairs really well with Arc Lightning, because the Arc Lightning gives Exude Confidence go again while also letting you use your Starfall. But you're going to want to pick your spots with Exude. As I said, it is sometimes difficult to set up. It doesn't have natural go again. It is not a lightning card, so it takes some work. Really quick, talking about a powerful combo with Exude Confidence and Lightning Press. Exude's effect says that while it isn't defended by a card with equal or greater power, the defending hero can't play or activate instants or defense reactions this combat chain. So you play your Arc Lightning, you play your Exude Confidence, where defensive decks will try to get you is blocking the Exude with something like Leave No Witnesses, Surgical Extraction, Command and Conquer, something that does have equal or greater power than Exude. There is a step that is often glossed over between the attack step and the reaction step called the defense step. And it's glossed over because very rarely does it matter. Nothing really happens in the defense step, but there is a priority window before the reaction step. So where you can get people is you play Exude Confidence, they block with a Command and Conquer. In the defense step, you play Lightning Press. Now Exude Confidence is no longer defended by a card with equal or greater power, but your opponent can't react because you aren't in the reaction step and defense reactions can't be played. The reason this doesn't work in the reaction step is that you play your Lightning Press and your opponent responds by playing Sink Below, Fate Foreseen, Shelter from the Storm. The press hasn't resolved yet, so your opponent has a chance to respond to it. But if you do it in the defense step, your opponent can't respond with a reaction. So Exude Confidence is just great, and it's great into the meta that we're in now, where so many decks are playing 6 or 9 copies of defense reactions. Specifically, we are playing 6 to 9 copies of defense reactions because we're bringing in Sink Below, which has been floating around Aurora list for some time. We're also bringing in new standout Shelter from the Storm. But this is where I think this Aurora list might differ from what you're used to. If you aren't up to date with what Pudding Tam was up to back in the Rosetta meta. Putting Tam was on 6 defense reactions, running Exude Confidence, running a bunch of 3-block attack actions and Electromagnetic Somersault. And his sort of mid-range Aurora list is what put me on the idea of going even further and just playing so many D-reacts. It's very rare that we're bringing 9 defense reactions into any matchup. Usually it is just Assassin. But what running 9 defense reactions gives us is flexibility of which defense reactions we bring. I play 6 D-reacts in more matchups than you would expect. Shout out to the sideboard guide, which will tell you which ones they are. But because I'm only running 6, I get to choose which 6 they are. And between Sigil of Suffering, Shelter from the Storm, and Sink Below, they all have their different strengths. As I've said, Sigil of Suffering is great because it is a 1-card 5 that can trigger Channel Lightning Valley. But against opponents that will run Arcane Barrier 1 or that have damage prevention, so heroes like Enigma or Prism, the value of Sigil goes way down because we are unlikely to deal that point of arcane damage. And if we aren't dealing the point of arcane, Sigil is never anything more than a 0 for 3. And that's where we get to play Sink Below and Shelter from the Storm, which are always 0 for 4s. Sink Below, while not as strong as it used to be since the release of Shelter from the Storm, can provide hand fixing. And that's just always generically good. For the most part, this deck is designed to not brick. We can always do something with our hand. Maybe we're blocking, maybe we drew instants, maybe we have Arc Lightning, Burn Up Shock, something that lets us pitch to our Starfall to get action points out of it. But you can draw 4 instants. You can draw 4 attacks that don't have Go Again. Your opponent can just send 1 attack in a turn, and that is where Sink Below can help you hand fix, can help you craft a better next turn. But the real standout from Hunted for Aurora is Shelter from the Storm. The card costs $75 on TCG Player as of the time that I'm recording this deck tech. No one needs to be told how good Shelter from the Storm is. Good against Syndra, good against opposing Auroras, good against, well, Visceri. Shelter, for the most part, is a 1-card 4. But where you can get extra value from it is by discarding it to prevent that damage. So you turn off Syndra's Flick Knives, you turn off Aurora's Burn Up Shock or Arc Lightning. And sometimes, speaking from the Aurora perspective, getting your Arc Lightning damage prevented is massively impactful because we talked so much about the value you get from triggering Channel Lightning Valley or turning on your second strikes. And if you went out on a limb and made a risky play to get that point of damage across and your opponent had Shelter from the Storm, that might be enough to just shut down your turn. At the RTN event that I won, I was talking to my finalist opponent, Tommy B5K, who had said that his 1 loss in Swiss came from a Syndra who discarded Shelter from the Storm and prevented 11 points of damage. And that's coming from Channel Lightning Valley and 2 copies of Second Strike. So Shelter can be massively impactful, and that's why it is in the deck. Moving away from defense reactions, we have Flicker Wisp, sort of the old reliable, the crux of the combo Aurora that I think many people are familiar with. When paired with Arc Lightning, Flicker Wisp goes insane. Arc Lightning on its own deals 1 point of arcane damage every time you go again, but if you fuse Flicker Wisp at the same time, now Arc Lightning is dealing 2 points of damage every time you go again. So suddenly what was looking like a 4-point Arc Lightning is turning into an 8-point Arc Lightning, and against opponents like Enigma, Ira, heroes that are either preventing damage or have AB1, now they can't prevent 2 points of damage. Because Flicker Wisp is not dealing 1 and 1, it's dealing 2. So Flicker Wisp can get you over the line against decks with AB1 or with Ward or other damage prevention. Even without the Arc Lightning combo, sometimes Flicker Wisp can get you your Channel Lightning Valley triggers over Arcane Barrier 1. You play the Flicker Wisp, you fuse it with a Second Strike or any other Lightning card, you deal 2 points of damage, you draw. Great way to turn on your Second Strikes against AB1 opponents. Flicker Wisp is not so good, at least currently, and in my opinion, that I'm going hard on the combo. You'll see that I'm only running one copy of Flicker Wisp. I don't have Crown of Dominion or Aether Ironweave, and that's really where I'm differing from the Ellie Bird Mercy Bickle list of November 2024. But I do think it's worth having one copy for any Count Your Blessings Enigma that you might run into. You can just pitch stack it, or hell, draw the combo early and fire it off, get into a winning position, and keep Enigma on the back foot. Next, we've got Vaporize Shock, and this is not a card that I've seen a lot of, for good reason. It's very narrow, and it is more narrow now than it was before. This was great Viscerai tech, because what this did was 1 point of damage on your opponent's turn. Maybe you draw from Channel Lightning Valley. The point of damage is just good. But more importantly, you had the Vaporize side. And Vaporize has a secret mode to it, where you play Vaporize, your opponent pitches to the Arcane Barrier, prevents the 1 point of damage, and says, great, you can't destroy any of my Aura permanents because you didn't deal arcane damage. And you say, no, no, no. I dealt 0 points of arcane damage, which means that I get to destroy an Aura permanent with cost 0. And an Aura permanent with cost 0 is Malefic Incantation. But it's also Channel Lightning Valley, it's Restless Coalescence. There are other targets for Vaporize, so while this was Viscerai tech, I feel okay recommending it to you and putting it up on Patreon as a tech card that you will still want to play, because it hits enemy Auroras, it hits Acilios, it hits Enigmas. It also, in particular, when paired with something like a Burn Up Shock or an Arc Lightning, hits a particular new hero that is known for stacking Aura tokens and is not known for Arcane Barrier. You know, hey Fang, it's a nice stack of fealties you have there. Sure would be a shame if something were to happen to it. Moving into the equipment, we have just a few pieces here. We've got Balance of Justice, which is weirdly brought in for Jarl. That's where Pudding sold me on it. Jarl is never drawing 2 or more cards in their turn. What they are doing is attacking with things that you want to block, but that you don't want to break equipment for. Balance of Justice has a 2 printed in the bottom right, and it has Guardwell, which is not as good as Battle Worn, but is much better than Temper. So Balance just gets you 2 points of block, while also not giving Jarl an opening to give you Frostbite. But from there, we can start applying Balance to other matchups where it's relevant. Both dashes will draw multiple cards from Cerebellum Processor. Aurora can draw multiple cards from Snatch and Channel Lightning Valley. Prism can draw multiple cards from Herald of Erudition and from Soraya. So Balance just has enough utility across the board that I keep a slot open for it, and if you listened to my Road to Nationals report released yesterday, you'll know that I was getting great value from Balance against Prism on both days. Fiendal Spring Tunic here is really just in the deck for a few matchups, Jarl and Enigma. We're not bringing it against Assassin because we want the block value on Carapace. We aren't running it into other aggro matchups. You might play it against something like a Zen or an Ira if you lose the die roll and have to go first, because it is a way for you to get value from a losing position and help catapult you up ahead in the game. Being able to use a Tunic counter for Starfall on an all-red burn-up turn or on an all-red Arc Lightning turn is really strong, but for the most part, you just want the consistency that Dyadic Carapace gives you. And finally, we have Shock Charmers. This is here for Wizards, so Kano especially is where we want Spell Void too, but honestly, you'll use this against Acilio and Verdance because it is a great way against Acilio to say that they have to put a little more work into their Mind Warp. They can't just play Sigil of Lightning, activate Volsar, Mind Warp you for 3 and get your hand. And against Verdance, it says that she can't just Surge and Aethertide you, then play Mind Warp for 4. You get some resilience from Shock Charmers that you aren't getting from Grasp of the Arknight. That's the 80 cards. This is what I won my Road to Nationals with. I talked briefly about sort of the idea of the deck here, in that I want the biggest number possible. And this is the deck that really made that happen for me. Electromagnetic Somersault is a 1-card 6. We have 9 copies of 0 for 4 defense reactions that don't use our action point but get that 4 points of value from a single card. We have an entire suite of attacks that attack for a minimum of 4. There are so many 2-card 9s, 2-card 8s, 9s, and 10s in Aurora. It goes insane. When you can make that embodiment of lightning from one of the blues that you just happen to draw, that can set up incredibly powerful turns. Aurora just has so many above rate plays that put her above other aggro decks. It's insane. You generate so much value, and she also brings a fridge. She has 8 points of armor available compared to something like a Syndra or an Ira who's bringing 1 on their flight path or their pouncing paws. They don't want to block with all of their other equipment, and Aurora is totally fine putting Grasp and Carapace in front of a Leave No Witnesses or a Snatch. Aurora is just a value engine, and that's what I really leaned into. That's why I went with putting Tam's style of Aurora rather than Ellie Bird's style, is that Ellie's deck is fantastic. Very good deck. I played it to great success in calling Portland myself, but I felt like it went all in on this easily disruptible combo, whereas putting Tam was playing for these value lines, these 2-card 8s, these 3-card 11s, these 4-card 14s that are generating extra value every turn, getting your extra 1 or 2 points here and there, but then also having the potential to throw a 5-card 20. Having the potential to whittle your opponent down by hitting them with these 4-power breakpoints over their 3-block cards, and then just having a pop-off turn with Arc Lightning, where suddenly your Electromagnetic Somersault getting you 6 points of value on defense is worse than it getting you 4 points of value on offense because you're threatening Channel Lightning Valley or Burn Up Shock. There are just so many easy to pull off pivot turns available in Aurora that you can pull off these high value defensive plays, and then suddenly you're in there. You're killing. You're taking your opponent's entire hand and then drawing 4 new cards, and they all convert on offense. I love this deck. I love this hero. I love playing the deck. I think it's fantastic. I will not hard commit to it for London because I'm no prophet. But between now and then, we've got an entire armory deck coming out for the hero. We've seen 2 great cards for her already, and it would not surprise me if LSS prints some piece of equipment that just makes Aurora go crazy. I love the deck. I'm happy to share it with you. I hope that you have as much success with it and love it as much as I do. Again, if you need help with the sideboards, if you want to know what my matchups were, go ahead and buy that Patreon guide. It's here for you, but if you want to figure it out on your own, these are the 80 cards that I used. I still stand behind them in a Viscerite less meta, go out, burn up shock, arc lightning, just kill some people. Good luck, have fun, and until the next time I see you on Daily Fab Gameplay, take care.